The Added Time Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Added Time Podcast, episode 6. I'm T.S. Comber, your host. Bit of a special episode today because we're actually doing this live and in the flesh as the lockdown rules have slowly been, I don't even know the word, they've just gotten better, lifted. Yeah, excellent, James. Over here in the UK, as we Brits call it. I'm joined, and the football's also been back. Yeah, we're a football podcast, of course, so that's been big, I guess. I'm also joined by my other co-host, as normal, James Ward. How have you been enjoying the football?
The football's been fantastic to us. I'm well. Shame it's raining today. The lockdown rules have been lifted, so it's allowing us to get on with our job as normal. And as Alexandra Burke once said, "Hallelujah, the football is back." We're here, and well, to my right, you know what, Tiers? I'll do your job for you this week. I'm going to introduce the other co-host, Harry Martin. How are you today, Harry?
Wow, hello James. I'm back, the man, the myth, the legend, the man that is. I'm back for the podcast, and I'm ready to get going. Talking about the football, I've missed it. It's been nice on Twitter having some banter with fellow football people. The timeline's coming back to normal, and we're just happy all around, really. So yeah, back to you, Tis, and he'll tell you what we're getting into.
Yeah, big day today. Lots of topics, of course. We have Liverpool have won the league now since we've come back. Amazing stuff. There's a promotion race hotting up in the Championship. Both relegation races in both English leagues are actually looking really exciting. So we'll get into both leagues, but we'll start with today's big topic we're going to discuss, and that is about the Big Six and whether they are still the Big Six as we know it. Of course, Arsenal, Tottenham, and Man United have been really struggling this season. Leicester and Wolves currently sit in third and fifth place, respectively. So I'll put it to you, Harry, first, as you are a fan of one of the Big Six teams. Is it over as we know it?
Well, as a supporter of Chelsea, if some of you didn't know, I don't think it is over. I think that those clubs are still the top 6 clubs in size and wealth. It's just some of them haven't been performing as a team, such as Arsenal. I would still say their squad is up there with the top 6. They've just been underperforming, sorry. And then teams like Sheffield and Wolves are probably doing better than anyone thought they could do, just because they're actually a good unit in a squad. And even Spurs and Arsenal, they've got the biggest stadiums. I still think depends how you define the top 6. In size, I probably would say they are still the top 6, maybe if not on quality of the pitch anymore. What do you think, James?
Well, personally, I do still think it's a thing, as Harry said, in regards to the wealth of the 6 clubs. Sorry, money wise, they're the top 6 in probably most of Europe. To be fair, they make up the top 10 anyway in Europe. But teams like Leicester and Wolves sort of catching them up in quality of football. I think that's mostly down to the management of them teams. Personally, massive fan of the management, particularly at Wolves. I think they look like the top challengers at the moment. Leicester have sort of fallen off since the restart, but the top 6 is still a thing, like I said, in terms of size and wealth. But in terms of quality of football, I think they are dropping off a little bit.
Yeah, so I think we're all in agreement there that the Big Six, they're still the Big Six as they are, but I guess my point here would be rather is there's someone who can challenge for it. Of course, this is the first season since Leicester won the league back in 2016 that there may be one of the not Big Six finishing in the top 6 of the Premier League in Leicester and Wolves, potentially others. So do you think they can kick on, make it back to back? Of course, we haven't had that in a very long time since Everton finished in the top 6 2 seasons in a row back at the start of last decade. Do you think a side like Leicester, maybe even Wolves, with European football next season, could challenge?
I think the only problem we've seen it since the restart, is the big clubs, the top 6, they know how to close out the league and they never let go. And Leicester seem to be slipping in form. Wolves don't, but Leicester do. And I feel like it could just end up being Chelsea, Manchester City, Manchester United, and Liverpool in that top 4 again. So I think they just need to close the gap in staying consistent, because even Wolves have had dips in form, too many draws. I think they just need to stay consistent and finish out the season like the big clubs do. And I think they've definitely got a chance, because they may not have as much wealth, but the way their clubs are being run is just so much more professional and efficient, whereas they don't have the money to spend, so they've got to run it like that.
Uh, James, there is, of course, other big clubs in the country. Harry raises the point that the biggest stadiums can help your infrastructure, such as Arsenal and Spurs. But we look at a team like West Ham United, who have the exact same size stadium as them. They clearly have money pumped into the club. Um, as they have the same kind of infrastructure, and Tottenham weren't always a big six club. I mean, you could say West Ham and Tottenham probably have similar sized fan bases. So, do you think West Ham or someone, is it the size of the club or the thinking of the club which is going to make a new club enter the Big Six?
I think it's the philosophy of the club. So I think the way the clubs are run is massively important at the moment. I'd say there's only two teams in the league, in City and Liverpool, who have two starting 11s that could probably beat most of the league. The rest of them sort of rely on their first 11 and perhaps three or four, 3 to 5 added players that can sort of fill in those positions. So I don't really know. I think West Ham, specifically, just to follow on from your point, are well off at the moment. I know they've got the stadium, they've got the money to some degree, but it's just not clicking for whatever reason at the moment. I think in the next 5 years or so, we were to have this conversation. I think maybe we'd see a bit of a change in the tide, but for the time being, I can see it sticking the way it is. But the only way to find out is just to wait and see, I suppose.
Yeah, personally, I'd love for it to change up a bit. But as James said, I think it's going to be more a time will tell things, and because a lot of teams do have fluky seasons and get into the top six. But let's get more into the football that has been happening. It's come back with a bang. Liverpool have gone on to win the league after Chelsea beat Man City. We'll discuss Liverpool more in another podcast where we will say whether they are the best team of all time, because I think that they're certainly in the conversation. We'll talk more about the other things that are going on in the Premier League. Again, Harry, coming to you as a Chelsea fan, after last weekend, it did look like the Champions League race was probably over with Chelsea. I think 4 points clear at the time. But since Wolves win and Chelsea do have a game in hand, but it's just 2 points now. Of course, Wolves also 3 points off Leicester. What do you think about the Champions League race? Do you think Chelsea do probably have enough to close it out now? But they still got to play teams like Liverpool. So what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I think we will close it out. I think that victory against Man City was huge for us, not only this season and next season. Just set a precedent of what we're aiming for next season with Werner and Ziyech coming in and plus the others. And I think we shouldn't be looking behind us. I think we should be looking ahead at teams like Leicester. I think we've closed that gap down. We're 1 point behind them now. And I think that's where we should be looking, trying to get third. I think our form's been good. I think we've come back into the restart one of the best teams, personally. And you say about Liverpool, I know that they're probably their team without that mentality, but I think it's hard to concentrate after you just won the league, whereas we'd be fighting for every last point. So I think we might have an edge on that one also. You don't know what Klopp's going to do with his team, whether he's going to start his big players, rest them. Yeah, it's hard to know, but I definitely think we've got a good chance, really. So it should be good. As a Chelsea fan, I'm very happy for the future.
Yeah, looking elsewhere in the European race, Burnley won last night. It's being filmed on a Tuesday. They're level on points with Spurs in seventh. Of course, seventh could get European football. Looking elsewhere, James, we've got Man United sixth, Tottenham seventh, Burnley eighth, Sheffield United ninth, and Arsenal back in 10th. What do you think for the rest of the European races? Is it important that one of the smaller teams gets it? And maybe, you look at Arsenal, Tottenham, maybe they take the season off Europe next season. And we've seen a lot with Chelsea. When they finished 10th, they went on to win the league. We've seen it with Liverpool, who didn't get European football in Klopp's first season, and then he came out and got Champions League straight away. Do you think it would be a blessing in disguise for a team like Arsenal or Tottenham just to not have European football next season?
I think Arsenal have sort of proved the point that European football is not important to their league standings. They've played in a reserve tournament, if we're honest, for the Premier League clubs. They always tend to play a fully changed 11 when it comes to the Europa League, and they still seem to struggle in the league. So I think for them, I think it's null and void them in the league. But Spurs perhaps could. They've looked promising since the restart. Really like the look of Lo Celso. I think he could be a really important player for them in the future. And I've seen a lot of fans wishing for Winks, Lo Celso, and Wanyama to play together. So we'll see if that flourishes. But under Mourinho, I think they could be a force to be reckoned with in the league. But like I've said before, I think it's Liverpool and Man City for the next couple of seasons anyway, until their players sort of fizzle out. I mean, the age of David Silva, Aguero, etc. They're sort of coming to the end of their career, respectively, and then we'll see if anyone can come in instead of them, or if not, then I think we could see a couple more teams come in for that top spot.
Yeah, finishing up in the Premier League, of course, we got the highly exciting relegation battle, and I think everyone really is just it's open for any one of those teams in that bottom four. If we don't count Norwich in there and we count them as being down already, basically. If one of those four teams, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, West Ham, and Watford, only 1 point separating them all. If one of them really takes form, then they can just shoot up the table, as we've seen with Southampton, who are just outside of it. They're now in a hunt for European place. What do you think's going on down there, Harry? Who do you think out the two teams out of those four really look the worst since the restart?
I don't really know. I think West Ham don't look good at all. West Ham look shocking, and their form hasn't got any better. I thought Brighton have looked good, obviously picking up a thing against, so I don't think they're going to drop in, and I don't see a way out for Bournemouth. Villa look awful. I thought they'd look a lot better. They just look like a one-man team. All they seem to do is rely on Jack Grealish to try do a bit of magic. And when they played Chelsea, we just shut him down. They didn't really have anything else. I think Norwich are out of it, 6 points off safety, but you know what, I could feel Bournemouth trying to get out and West Ham slipping in. I think West Ham are that bad this year. I could really see it happening.
Yeah, it would be great to see West Ham down the Championship in that stadium from a funny perspective, I guess. But no, I think it's really going to be hard down there. I mean, Watford probably the only team or they're clear of them by a point. But of course, with the game in hand, they didn't look good against Southampton at all. Though that being said, I think Aston Villa have been very unlucky. They've just shown they really can't finish. So it's where those goals are going to come from. But I think that's really is the same for all of them. And one of the teams has just got to take it by the scruff of the neck, and they really can elevate themselves out of there. But yeah, Premier League's been really interesting. Of course, tonight we'll have Brighton v Man United. Interesting games tomorrow. Of course, West Ham v Chelsea. Big at both ends. Whoever win that, and of course Manchester City v Liverpool. Should just be a good game in general to watch. We'll move on to the Championship in a second, but what I want to talk about something here is one of these post-lockdown football things that has been a discussion, and also has been a discussion on our website for www.45plus3.com. One of our esteemed writers, Jacob Jessup, wrote an article about the home advantage and whether it still exists. If we look at the opening weekend, I think in the Championship there was 2 wins out of the 12 games. In the Premier League, I think it was very similar. But as we move into the second weekend, 6 out of 10 Premier League wins were home wins, and 6 games of the 12 Championship games were home wins. So maybe it was just that first week that teams had a bit of a psychological factor and they've got used to it in the second week. But Harry, reading that article, what do you think, and how do you think that affects the rest of the season?
I definitely think it is a thing because I don't know, like when you're in them last minutes and you're knackered and your fans get behind you and give you that roar, it definitely gives you an advantage over the other team. And I think, but also in another way, I think like abuse from your own home fans can help some players. I think with like Joe Linton at Newcastle, he's getting so much abuse. So I think someone like him might relish in not having to play with the fans and the pressure of the fans. So I think it is a weird one, but as we've seen, I think overall for the team, it's actually helping the away team because the home team don't have that final push, that final thing that gets them over the line is their fans roar, and I think it's definitely helping the away teams. And James, as a match going fan, what do you think about this?
Well, I think we saw firstly, so the Bundesliga is a bit of a taster for what was to come in the English leagues. We saw the home advantage wasn't really important there. I think one prime example of where home advantage might have helped was Cardiff versus Leeds. I think Cardiff really did turn over Leeds in some senses, but at the same time, I do think Leeds were on top of them for the whole game. Obviously, Cardiff came out 2-0 winners, and they did look the better side. And then we saw again Leeds went and beat Fulham 3-0. So it's difficult to say really. I think we'd have to give it another couple of weeks, see maybe 3 or 4 more games played, and then we can sort of see the form sort of level out, and we can get some proper results from it. But I think for the time being, it's a bit of a tough topic to read into too much, but we'll soon find out.
Yeah, certainly one of the more interesting topics coming out of the restart. Remember, you can go to 45plus3.com if you want to check that article out. I highly recommend it. And should be some good articles coming out this week. Of course, let's get into the championship where things are really hotting up. Before the restart, it looked like Leeds and West Brom were safely going to be getting over the line and getting back into the Premier League. Leeds had a wobble that first weekend, losing 2-0 to Cardiff, as James said, but West Brom haven't won any of the games they've played so far, and Brentford won two out of 2 games. West Brom haven't actually scored in 4 games. It's looking bad for them. Fulham looked like they could be in it, but that 3-0 loss to Leeds has really dampened that. Promotion race, James. Brentford currently 5 points off West Brom with 7 games to go. It's going to take something big. It's going to take a lot of wins from Brentford, and West Brom really continuing their sluggish form at the moment. But I'll ask you this. Do you think it's possible for Brentford to pull off one of the most amazing championship comebacks in terms of promotion?
Certainly think it's possible too. Perhaps that's my heart speaking more than my head, but I think it's going to be really interesting next few weeks to see what happens. I think tonight's a massive game against Reading, and then I think there's one huge game in there, which is Derby, which is I think the main one that we could slip up on. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see. I think the only team that's going to fall out of that top 2 is going to be West Brom, if it's going to be either of them. I think Leeds sort of solidified their place up there with that win against Fulham. But like I said, we'll soon find out. I think it's going to be an interesting run-in, and West Brom just haven't been at the races at all, so it's going to be strange to see what happens there. They just really didn't look like they were at the races at all against Brentford. I mean, they had that one Kenneth Horse shot. Other than that, I think Brentford just don't look like conceding. So it'll be interesting. If Reading can break them down tonight, then I think it'll be a playoff position that Brentford are fighting for. But if they can keep the ball rolling, get another couple of wins, then I think they're well up there.
Yeah, I also think it would certainly be deserved. I think Brentford, if anything, look one of the top 2 most complete teams this season. You look at that West Brom game, the defence was just amazing, and it's been the difference this season, which we haven't had in previous seasons, to just see the game out, relish the defending. I mean, you look at previous seasons, Brentford have just completely fallen apart defensively in some games. And West Brom, attacking-wise, is definitely what they're going to be looking at in the next few games. How can they get these goals? Of course, before they'd been relying on a lot of their wingers to get the goals. Robson Kanu and Zahore up front haven't really been helping out like top teams like Brentford with Watkins up front, or Fulham with Mitrovic, who've been able to get goals in tight games. Talking about Fulham, Harry, as I know you've watched both their games so far, how do you think they've looked? I mean, they're going to be without Mitrovic for the next 3 games, but I actually think this could help them, because for me, he doesn't really fit their style of play, and having someone like maybe Bobby Reed, who can connect more with Cavallero and Knockaert and get the best out of them, do you think there's potential for them to even slip out the playoffs, or do you just think they've been unlucky?
From watching both games for all the way through, I think they were just unlucky, especially against Leeds. Most of the game they were on top, especially in the first half. I think Leeds were lucky to get that breakthrough goal, and I think they were unlucky. Even in the game with Brentford, they had really good spells. I think they were just missing that final touch, that final pass in places. I think it wasn't like they've been playing bad, sort of like West Brom. I thought they played well in both games. Sometimes you're just unlucky not to get the result. And I think about Mitrovic, he is sort of sluggish, but I think in some ways when the ball drops to him, he's always taking the chances. I think that does help them in the tight games, or maybe he is a bit more dominant against the more scrappy teams. And when they come up against the more possession-based teams like Leeds and Brentford, he struggles a bit more because Ben White completely marked him out of the game, and he didn't even have a sniff really, apart from elbowing in the face, which has now got him the 3-game ban. So, yeah, I think they're unlucky. I think they'll be good for playoffs. I think nothing to worry about on their part.
Yeah, a word on Ben White. I mean, what a defender he's looking like. I think he could be the answer to England's problems at the back, and what player Brighton have for next season if they can hold on to him. The playoff race in the Championship it was probably one of the tightest things going into the restart. But Cardiff have kind of pulled away, 3 points clear of Preston and Derby. Some of the favourites to get in there, Mill and Bristol City, 5 points behind now. They've really struggled to get points on the board in those opening 2 games. But Mill play Swansea tonight, so it could all change. But I'd like to pat us all on the head because we all said that Cardiff would get top 6 in that predictions episode. And I don't think a lot of people are saying that, to be fair, because they were in 11th place or something. But no, they've certainly proved us right. I want to finish up on the relegation race, James. It seems like it is changing with every game week. Currently, bottom of Barnsley on 38, 23rd of Luton on 39, and carrying the last spot is Huddersfield on 42. We've got Hull just above them on goal difference, Stoke just point clear, Middlesbrough, Charlton, and Wigan can't call themselves safe yet. James, who do you worry for in that bottom 3?
In the bottom 3 specifically, I think Barnsley and Luton were sort of tipped as favourites to go down anyway at the start of the season, particularly Barnsley. We know the famous yo-yo club they are, going between the Championship and League One. Them and Rotherham sort of just seem to exchange places every season. But I think the one you've got to be looking at is Huddersfield. I mean, that team should not be anywhere near the bottom 3. They signed a huge player in Carlin Grant, who to be honest hasn't even been bad for them. I think the rest of the teams really let him down. I think for Hull they got a massive result at the weekend, but whether they can follow on from that, I don't know. And then Stoke as well. Stoke in a similar sort of vein as Huddersfield shouldn't really be down anywhere near the bottom 3 places, but they are, and now they've got a bit of a fight on their hands to get back out of there. I think Stoke though, they're looking decent form, so they should be all right. But Huddersfield, I think I think they're the ones we've got to keep an eye on. My prediction for the bottom 3 would probably be Barnsley, Luton, and Hull. I'd like to see Huddersfield survive because it's a fantastic ground to go to, and they are a really good club. It'd be a shame to see them drop all the way down to League One after being in the Premier League so recently, but we'll soon find out.
Yeah, Charlton especially have really impressed me since the restart. Of course, back-to-back 1-0 wins, both goals coming from set pieces. I think Lee Bowyer really praising assistant manager Johnny Jackson on the set pieces at the moment, looking for how they can get goals without Lyle Taylor, and they've come out and shown they've got other stuff going on. I think they've done the job really. And you look at sides like Stoke and Huddersfield, who going into it thought they probably had enough. That only a couple wins would see them clear of relegation, but now they're right in it. So it's going to be interesting. Things are developing every week. We'll have one of these episodes every couple of weeks just to assess what the current situation is in football. And I've certainly really enjoyed the restart. And look out for some other episodes we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing Liverpool and assessing whether they're the greatest team in the Premier League. We've got a few 11s coming up, actually. So, yeah, if you got any final words, guys?
No, just thank you for listening, and check out the website, www.45plus3.com. And, we'll be posting our articles there daily, hopefully. So if you need an added bit of content from all of us, make sure to check that out, as well as our old episodes. Why not give them a listen? Sorry about that. And over to James. Anything else?
No, that's all from me as well. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode, guys, and like Tia said, there's more to come. And following on from Harry's point, yeah, check out the website. We've all been writing some pieces on there, really interesting stuff, and someone that we don't have on the podcast as well, Jacob. So definitely worth a read. All right, thank you guys. Bye bye.